The most striking truth about advanced gray rocking is that it is not about being boring, it is about becoming unextractable. We generally assume that staying quiet is a defensive move, but the reality is so much more powerful. Why does your silence often drive a manipulator into a frenzy before it finally makes them disappear? This is the core paradox of advanced gray rocking. It's that moment your refusal to react becomes a wall they just can't climb no matter how hard they try.
Now, this isn't just some clever turn of phrase, it's really the key to a powerful psychological shield. To be unextractable means that someone who thrives on getting a rise out of you can no longer mine you for their supply. Your thoughts, your feelings, your plans, they all become completely inaccessible. So we're going to do a deep dive into how you can create this kind of psychological vacuum and how a strategy of what's called active neutrality becomes your most effective defense against high-pressure manipulation.
So let's really focus on this central question. It seems counterintuitive, right? How can doing nothing create such a powerful and at first an explosive effect? Well, it's because your silence isn't passive. Not at all. It's a refusal to play the game by their rules. A manipulator's entire strategy relies on you engaging with them. So when you withhold that, you're not just being quiet, you are actively dismantling their entire power structure. And that's exactly what we're going to break down, piece by piece.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by unpacking that unextractable paradox. Then, we'll expose the manipulator's playbook in the engagement trap. After that, we'll learn how to systematically become a wall with the extinction mechanism, and we'll get into the deep psychology of why it actually works. Then we're going to equip ourselves with a practical sovereignty toolkit, and finally, embody the whole mindset of the unmovable mountain.
Okay, our first section is all about a fundamental shift in how you think. We're going to transform boredom from this passive state into your most active, strategic weapon for psychological freedom. It's a way to move yourself completely off the battlefield, so you're no longer a participant in the conflict, but just an observer of their behavior. So what we're really talking about here isn't just ignoring someone. It's a documented cognitive shift known in behavioral science as emotional decoupling. You see this happen a lot in high-conflict environments you can't just up and leave, like a toxic workplace or a challenging family dynamic. So think of a colleague who uses guilt to get you to take on their work. At first, it totally works. But through emotional decoupling, their loaded comments and their heavy sighs, they start to register as simple data, like, oh, that person is trying to offload work, rather than a personal attack on your generosity. Their words just don't trigger you anymore. You move beyond pretending to be indifferent into a genuine state where their approval or disapproval is no longer tied to your self-worth.
Now, to become immune, you first have to understand the game that's being played against you. A manipulator isn't looking for a rational conversation or a mutual understanding. No, they are looking for a reaction. They are setting a trap, and your emotional engagement, whether it's positive or negative, is the bait, the fuel, and the prize all rolled into one.
And this is where it gets tricky, because the game isn't just external, it's a battle against your own well-intentioned programming. Manipulators rely on these predictable mental traps. First, the fairness trap. This is that deep-seated belief that you owe people a logical explanation. Imagine a relative who's constantly criticizing your life choices. The fairness trap is that feeling that if you could just explain your reasoning perfectly, they'd finally get it and stop. They won't. They want the engagement, not the explanation. Then there's the losing trap, that gut feeling that if you go quiet, they've won the argument. But the most powerful concept here is the prospector dynamic. Think of the manipulator as a prospector, and your emotional reactions, your anger, your tears, even your detailed defenses, that's the gold they're mining for. This is what's known as supply, and it's the only currency they really value. And this right here is the strategic pivot you have to make. On the left, you see reactive resistance. This is our default mode, fighting back, explaining, arguing. It feels like you're standing up for yourself, but all you're really doing is handing over that valuable supply. For example, reactive resistance is sending a long point-by-point email to your boss refuting their unfair criticism. On the right, that's active neutrality. This is the goal. You shift from fighting to observing, from explaining to emotionally decoupling. Active neutrality is replying to that same email with, "Thank you for the feedback. I will take it under consideration." You see the difference? One provides fuel for a week-long battle, the other starves the fire instantly. You stop being a mine and become a gray rock.
So, this state of active neutrality sounds great in theory, but how do you actually achieve it when you're under pressure? When every instinct is screaming at you to defend yourself? Well, it's not about willpower alone. It's a systematic process of reconditioning, both for yourself and for the person trying to control you.
Behavioral science actually maps out a pretty clear four-step pattern here. First up, cognitive decoupling. This is where you adopt what's called weather logic. You begin to view their emotional outbursts like a thunderstorm.
It's an impersonal event happening near you, not an attack directed at you. You don't argue with rain, you just note that it's raining. Second, the information-free response. You stop providing data they can use. You switch to short, neutral conversation-ending phrases like, I see, okay, or I hear you. These give them absolutely nothing to grab onto. Third, and listen, this is the toughest part, you have to withstand the extinction burst, which we'll get into next. Finally, if you hold the line, this leads to behavioral extinction. Their brain, just like ours, is wired to conserve energy. It will stop investing in a low-reward, high-effort target. They'll simply move on.
And here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, really difficult. When you first stop reacting, their behavior will not get better. It will get dramatically worse. This is the extinction burst. It's a predictable, temporary spike in manipulation. They know your buttons, and believe me, they will push every single one, harder than ever, trying to get that familiar supply. They might escalate from passive aggression to direct insults, or bring up old arguments, or even try crazy tactics like love bombing. You have to understand this. Their escalation is not a sign that the technique is failing. It is the clearest possible evidence that it is working. They are panicking because their source of control is drying up.
This chart shows you exactly what that looks like. You've got their normal baseline level of provocation, then you start implementing the gray rock method and bam, the provocation intensity just shoots through the roof during the extinction burst. This is the storm. It feels awful. It's the critical test of your resolve. But if you can hold the line here, if you can remain that unmovable wall and offer them nothing, look what happens next. The intensity plummets, often to a level even lower than before. They learn that the enormous energy they're expending on you yields zero reward, and their provocative behavior towards you just goes extinct.
So we know the how, but let's get into the deep why. What is the underlying psychological engine that makes this whole mechanism so incredibly effective? Why does becoming a wall actually work to repel someone who seems so determined to break you down?
The ultimate goal here is sovereignty through irrelevance. You need to internalize this. You are not trying to win the argument. You are not trying to get them to see your point of view. You are trying to make yourself completely and utterly irrelevant as a source of their emotional supply. It's a profound shift. You're no longer a player in their game. You've become the chessboard itself, impassive, unmovable, and just fundamentally uninteresting to someone who's looking for a fight. When they can't get a reaction, they can't manage you. The game is over.
Let's break this down using a concept from social exchange theory. Every interaction we have is kind of a subconscious cost-benefit analysis. So look at the manipulator's column. Their primary need is supply, which they get from your reaction. Their strategy is to increase the emotional cost for you through guilt or anger or confusion until you give in and provide that supply. Their desired outcome is control. Now look at your column. Your primary need is peace. Your new strategy is to flip the script and increase the energy cost for them. You make it so exhausting and unrewarding to provoke you that they just stop. Your desired outcome isn't to win, but to achieve psychological sovereignty.
To do this, you have to become aware of your own key vulnerability, which is often the JADE reflex. This is that conditioned automatic urge to justify, argue, defend, or explain. You hear an unfair criticism, and your mind immediately starts racing. I need to justify why I was late, I need to argue their assumption, defend my character, and explain the full context. Recognizing that internal script as the JADE reflex is the key. Every time you feel that pull, you need to see it as a flashing red light, a warning that you are about to provide the very supply they are looking for.
All right, we've covered the theory. Now let's get practical and build your sovereignty toolkit. These are the defenses you can start using today to reclaim your internal peace, one interaction at a time. This is where the strategy really becomes a practice.
So, how do you actually begin? It starts not with some dramatic confrontation, but with quiet observation. You need to become a scientist of your own interactions, analyzing your responses in real time instead of just being driven by them. This isn't about changing them, it's about changing you.
This audit is a mental checklist to run the moment you feel that familiar pull. Let's walk through a scenario. A family member makes a passive-aggressive comment about your career at dinner. Instead of reacting, you run the audit. First, check the bait. Ask yourself, why do I feel this compulsive need to win this specific argument right now? The bait is that urge to defend your competence. Next, view your urge to explain as a data point about their strategy, not some moral duty you have to fulfill. Then, recognize the engagement trap in real time. That feeling in your stomach, that's the trap. Finally, adopt informational opacity. You don't owe them updates on your plans, your feelings, or your successes. This isn't being dishonest, it's recognizing that with this person, information will only be used against you.
And this right here is the most powerful mindset shift of all. We're taught that explaining ourselves is a form of honesty, a way to build connection and intimacy. And in a healthy, reciprocal relationship, that is absolutely true. But in a manipulative dynamic, that old mindset is a liability. The new mindset is purely strategic and protective. With this specific person in this dynamic, explanations are a data leak. They are vulnerabilities that will be cataloged and used to manipulate you more effectively later. You don't need to be understood by someone who only wants to use that understanding as leverage.
Finally, let's cement the ultimate takeaway from this entire process, because this is about more than just a behavioral tactic you use in difficult moments. It's a fundamental transformation into a sovereign, unextractable self. This is the core belief you have to hold on to. Your internal peace, your mental calm, is a fundamental human right. It is not up for negotiation. It is not something you have to earn by winning an argument or by perfectly explaining your position. The moment you truly realize that their anger, their frustration, their drama is a problem for them to manage, not a summons for you to answer, that's the moment you break the cycle for good.
Remember this. The term is gray rock, but the goal is to become something far more powerful. A rock can be kicked, it can be thrown or moved. A mountain, however, is unshakable. The wind can howl, the storm can rage against it for 1,000 years, but the mountain remains. This strategy is about claiming your unshakable right to that internal peace. Your mind is private territory, and you are the sovereign who decides who and what gets in. You are the mountain.